Well, first off, that acquisition is known, rightfully so, as the Zinke acquisition, but what has, often in many arenas, not been maybe communicated well enough is that, those parcels that were purchased included lands that were not owned by Mr. Zinke as well. There were county lands that were also acquired at the same time. So it was not go out and get a particular owner's property. What the logic was, what my logic was, when I ran in 2007, and you all know that we are roughly 72 square miles. And in that discussion as I ran for Town Council to represent this community, we are an at-large community in terms of our representation. I feel very strongly about us being an at-large community. I do not believe it has benefited communities that have districted, and it becomes very parochial. It becomes very parochial about business location. It becomes very parochial about decisions that are made if it benefits my district and not another district. And so when those campaigns were going forward, and we've expanded 72 square miles, this community was very vocal about making sure that the southern region of our community, the most recent area of our community, does not go underserved. And what they mean by that is not only the schools being built in that direction, which they are, and of course that's a different, the school districts do all the planning for that, but also that there is infrastructure in that area. There's retail in that area. There are road improvements in that area. And another consistent component was and is and continues to be making sure that there are parks, amenities, those types of recreational opportunities that the northern section of this community, that is an older section, a more developed section, has enjoyed all these years. So in 2007, when this council was seated, having heard that in many different arenas, whether it was Gilbert 2020, whether it was the CIP, or whether it was just planning and zoning meetings, and I'm the liaison for the parks meeting, consistently there has been discussion in the public for us to purchase lands in that southern region to take care of the families in that area. So in 2007, you all, for the most part, many of you were here, there was a very different dynamic in terms of building and growth in this town. We directed the town manager at that time, George Pettit, to look for large parcels of land where there could be developed, like Freestone, like also Crossroads Park, in the southern section of our town, so that there would be geographical balance in our community. There were only a certain number of parcels available. There were not large tracts that were necessarily available to be purchased at that time. And in fact, one of the parcels that we ended up purchasing was zoned originally for multifamily housing. Now, anybody that knows me or that have watched me on the council, it comes as no surprise that I am not a strong advocate of continuing to bring multifamily housing in our community. And so when our manager went out and looked at parcels, one of the parcels we had said that we wanted to be strategically close to freeway access, because it is the hope of the council that at some point there will be able to be some type of special events venue similar to what Scottsdale has, similar to what Glendale has, so that there can be the opportunity of large conventions and so forth within the town. So he came back with some identified parcels, two of which were Mr. Zinke's, and he negotiated those parcels. The process for those negotiations, they began in 2007, but the closing of that business deal did not occur until 2009. Now, the discussion has been within the community that the evening that approval for the documents to be supported, that there was not community discussion. It was placed on the agenda. Whether people were paying attention to that or not, and why they were or were not, that's up to the general public to draw their own conclusion. But I can tell you that it was never skirted as to what my personal position was in terms of buying parkland and making sure there were amenities in the south. Now, were there things that could have been done differently to improve the process? And the answer is yes. The town had standing policies to require appraisals for certain large amounts of land that would be purchased. I will tell you that for small parcels for roadway improvement, that is not the case. And the town manager did not follow those internal policies. The town manager was retired about 3 weeks after this land acquisition. And so part of his retirement was as a result of the frustration of the council with the level of communication that went back and forth between administration and the council. We had expected, I had expected, that those processes had been followed, and it was to my surprise that the appraisal process had not been completed. What has been addressed since that time is there has been a revision. It is no longer a procedural process. It is a policy process that there will be on large tracts of land appraisals formalized before it goes to the town council. And so that is specifically what has been done in the meantime. In terms of rebuilding community trust, again, I think the transparency of not only this transaction, but any transaction. I am happy and have taken phone calls from citizens with regards to anyone that has called me about this particular acquisition. Some of this, as I said, goes back 2 years previous. Sometimes it has been characterized as an event that took place in a very short amount of time, but that was not accurate. So to rebuild trust, I think that as we continue to need amenities, we continue to acquire parkland, the lesson that has been learned is to make sure that that process is, again, as vocalized, is as open, and as communicated as possible. And so those are some of the things that perhaps were done wrong that need to be done and corrected and made better. And I certainly am supportive of all of those things taking place.